Hello, I'm Michelle Simpson, the Communications Project Manager at the San Jacinto River Authority. First, I'd like to thank you for your interest in the Spring Creek Flood Control Dam's feasibility study, or, as you'll often see it referenced, simply the Spring Creek study. Public input is a critical part of this study, and we want to hear from you. So we're glad you're taking the time to watch this video and hope that you'll be able to leave some feedback for our study team. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to visit the study website at www.springcreekstudy.com. Through the website, you can view study information and materials and leave feedback for the study team, even though you may not have been able to attend the first public meeting in person. I'd like to start off with a bit of background on the study to help everyone understand how we got to this point. In December of 2020, the San Jacinto Regional Watershed Master Drainage Plan was completed. The Master Drainage Plan analyzed flood risks and potential mitigation solutions for the entire upper San Jacinto River Basin, or Lake Houston watershed, which is a roughly 3,000 square mile area covering all or part of 7 counties, including the northeastern portion of Waller County. The project was led by the Harris County Flood Control District, with partners including SJRA, the City of Houston, and Montgomery County. The project included development of models to help predict flood risks along major streams across the study area, and ultimately resulted in a comprehensive flood mitigation plan, which included 16 recommended large-scale regional projects. Included in these recommended projects were dams along Birch Creek and Walnut Creek in Waller County within the Spring Creek watershed, as you can see circled on this exhibit. The dams recommended in the Master Drainage Plan were proposed to be dry bottom, meaning that no or very little water would be stored upstream of them during non-storm conditions. What you see here is a fact sheet from the Master Drainage Plan for the proposed dam on Birch Creek. This fact sheet and a similar sheet for Walnut Creek are available on the documentation page of the study website. As you can see on the fact sheet, the Birch Creek Dam was estimated to result in an inundation area of between 873 acres during a 100-year storm event, which is a storm with a 1% chance of occurring in any given year, and 917 acres during a PMF storm event. PMF stands for Probable Maximum Flood, and it represents a hypothetical flood event that can be expected from the most severe combination of critical meteorologic and hydrologic conditions that are reasonably possible in a drainage area. These conditions are considered when sizing dams. The Birch Creek Dam was also anticipated to remove over 800 structures from the 100-year floodplain along Spring Creek. And then finally, the cost of the project was estimated to range from $80 to $120 million at the time of the Master Drainage Plan. The wide range of estimated costs is based on right-of-way acquisition, with the lower number based on acquiring land within the 100-year inundation area, and the higher based on acquiring everything in the PMF inundation area. These dams, if determined to be feasible, would take several years to design and construct. Therefore, a 20-year inflation factor was applied to the estimated costs, raising the estimated range to roughly $120 to $180 million. Moving on to Walnut Creek. You can see the estimated inundation areas for 100-year and PMF storms ranging from roughly 1,200 to 1,300 acres. An estimate of roughly 1,200 structures removed from the 100-year floodplain, and cost ranging from approximately $100 to $130 million in 2020 dollars and $150 to $200 million with a 20-year escalation factor applied. All of the information shown on these fact sheets, including the inundation areas, benefits, and costs, are preliminary and subject to change based on the results of the current study. As a continuation of the efforts performed in the Master Drainage Plan project, SJRA was able to team with a group of partners to fund the next phase of analysis required for the proposed dams, which is the study we are here to talk about tonight. SJRA applied for and received grant funds from the Texas Water Development Board in the amount of 50% of the total study estimate of $1 million. To fund the remaining 50% of the study cost, the local match requirement of the grant, SJRA partnered with 7 regional entities, including the Harris County Flood Control District, City of Humble, and 5 municipal utility districts, or MUDs, in the Woodlands area. Finally, SJRA is performing project and grant management efforts for the study, as well as in-kind services. That covers a brief background for the Spring Creek study, and now I'm going to talk a bit about the study itself. I'll start with the goal of the study, which is to identify cost-effective and impactful flood mitigation alternatives in the Spring Creek watershed. By the end of this study, we should know whether the proposed dams are feasible, affordable, and viable for potential design and construction. If the study finds that one or both dams are feasible, a project sponsor would have to be identified to obtain funding and lead future project phases, including design, permitting, land acquisition, and construction. Next, I'll briefly summarize the scope of the study. One major element of the study is environmental due diligence. The Master Drainage Plan only looked at the proposed dam locations at a conceptual level, and further environmental analysis is required, including potentially some field investigations, desktop survey and analysis, and coordination with appropriate regulatory agencies. Another component of the scope is conceptual analysis, which will include sizing and configuration of the proposed dams, which may involve shifting the preliminary locations of the dams as appropriate. This effort will also include geotechnical soil analysis, which will allow the study team to determine whether local soils are appropriate for dam construction, what locations and configurations are feasible based on local soils, etc. The third major component of the study is updated modeling and benefit cost analysis. The modeling in the Master Drainage Plan did not include Birch or Walnut Creek, so all the preliminary benefits identified on the fact sheets you saw earlier were for structures only along Spring Creek. The study team is updating the modeling to include Birch and Walnut Creeks, as well as to utilize the best available and most recent modeling data, and will use this new modeling to update estimated ratios of the benefits and costs for the 2 dams. Benefit cost analysis is a critical component of any large project, as the ratio between estimated costs and benefits is used to determine the cost effectiveness of a potential project and is often a scoring criteria when applying for grants or other project financial assistance. Typically, a benefit cost ratio of 1.0 or above is preferred to verify that a project is cost effective. Finally, a report will be developed summarizing the results of the study, including recommendations for potential future phases. The preliminary locations of the 2 proposed dams and their associated inundation areas are shown on the next 2 slides, starting here with Birch Creek. The 100-year inundation limits are shown by the pink line on each exhibit, and the PMF inundation limits by the green line. As previously noted, the dams would be dry bottom, with the majority of the land upstream remaining in its current condition except during storm events. Here you can see the preliminary location of the Walnut Creek Dam. Also, as noted earlier, these locations and inundation extents are preliminary and subject to change as the study progresses. One of the goals of the study team, if feasible when analyzing alternatives, is to reduce the total number of parcels that would be impacted by the dams. If you own property within the preliminary inundation limits of one of the dams and have questions about how the dams could impact you, we encourage you to reach out to the study team via the Contact Us page on the study website. The website also includes preliminary dam location maps that you can review more closely, located on the documentation page. To wrap up, I'll quickly go through the schedule for the project and related public engagement efforts. The study kicked off in October of 2021. And our target completion is spring of next year. In addition to the meeting held April 7th, we plan to hold 2 additional public meetings, one this summer and one early next year. The purpose of the April 7th meeting was to inform the public of the study and begin gathering input from interested stakeholders. The summer meeting will be for the purpose of presenting project updates and receiving feedback on those updates. The final meeting, early next year, will allow the study team to present the findings, results, and recommendations of the study. The locations and exact dates of the 2 future meetings have not yet been determined. In closing, I'd like to point out that efforts related to these dams are only in the feasibility study phase. No land acquisition, design, or construction activities are planned or funded at this time, and all future phases would be based on the results of this study and the availability of funding. We want input from residents and other stakeholders interested in the study. Thank you again for your interest in the Spring Creek study, and we look forward to receiving your feedback. Please be sure to visit the study website at springcreekstudy.com, which will be updated throughout the study. Any feedback or questions you may have on the study can be submitted at any time on the project website by going to the Contact Us page.